Hello, and welcome to the Georgina Chamber of Commerce 2022 Municipal Election Debate on Rogers TV. My name is Dave Solossi, and I'll be the moderator for this debate. The debate is being held in partnership with Rogers TV Georgina and the Georgina Chamber of Commerce. During this debate, you'll hear from 3 of the 4 candidates who are asking for your vote on October 24th to be the next Ward 3 councillor in Georgina. I will read a statement from the 4th shortly. But before I introduce the other candidates, I want to go over the ground rules governing this debate. The order in which the candidates will be introduced and provide opening statements was determined by a random draw prior to the program. This order will be reversed during closing statements. Each candidate will be given 1 minute for opening remarks, 1 minute for closing statement, and 1 minute to answer each of the questions. A timekeeper will be here to give each of them a 30-second warning and then a 10-second cue to each candidate. If a candidate hears something they would like to challenge, they will raise their hand and be recognized by myself prior to the next question. They will have time to challenge any statement, and rebuttal opportunities may be available as time permits. We're looking forward to a respectful and fulsome discussion, and I encourage everyone to make the most of the time available to us together. So now, here are the 3 candidates running for Ward 3. Immediately to the left, Dave Neeson. In the middle, Andrew Edge. And the other end, Scott Wolin. Candidate Daniel Cohen is not here today, but has sent in this statement and asked me to read it, which I'll do now. Hello, fellow Georgina residents. It is with my sincerest regrets that I am not able to attend this debate. I am at home recovering from COVID. In an effort to respect the health and wellness of our community, I have decided to stay home until I fully recover. I am running for Ward 3 councillor and invite you to read about my platform on my website, votedanielcohen.ca, and follow my Facebook page. I care deeply about our community and intend to implement some community-based initiatives that will have a positive impact on our town by putting people first. I wish all of the candidates good luck in this election, and I would like to thank Rogers for hosting this debate and send my deepest regrets that I am not in attendance. Daniel Cohen. So thank you for that. So let's begin with opening remarks. You will each have 1 minute based on our draw prior to the debate. We're starting with Dave Neeson. Dave Neeson, please.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to tune in, be informed, and participate in the 2022 municipal election. I'm Dave Neeson, and since 2014, I've had the honor and privilege to serve as your trusted member of council here in Ward 3. In 2014, I made commitments that together we would save the North Gwillimbury Forest, protect Lake Simcoe, and get the Keswick Business Park up and going. And among so many other things, I'm proud to say that we have done just that. The North Gwillimbury Forest has been saved and is in full public ownership. Further adding to Lake Simcoe's protection, I was proud to co-lead a large and diverse group to secure Lake Simcoe's first ever phosphorus recycling plant. And lastly, the Keswick Business Park is currently under commercial development and is estimated to create up to 500 good-paying local jobs. Simply put, there is no substitute for experience, a proven track record, and a demonstrated dedication to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. For your opening remarks, Andrew Edge.
My name is Andrew Edge, and I'm asking the residents of Ward 3 to give Georgina the edge. Lake Simcoe and our outdoor spaces are major reasons why we've called Georgina home. I want to focus on our ability of all residents to access our recreational opportunities. Many of our spaces, but especially Lake Drive, have a number of different users like runners, walkers, cyclists, and drivers, all competing for the same space. Ensuring all users are safe is a priority of mine. As Georgina continues to grow, we need to balance growth with protecting our environment. Renewable energy, phosphorus mitigation, and green building practices are all things Georgina should embed within our infrastructure. By streamlining our building permit process, creating communication between departments, we can remove the red tape for all businesses, increasing industrial and commercial presence in Georgina. But most importantly, I want you to trust to be the person that you trust to act and understand on your concerns. That's why I'm asking you to give Georgina the edge.
Thank you. And for your opening remarks, this is go to Scott Wallen.
Thank you, Dave, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Scott Wallen, and I've been a resident of Georgina for 33 years with my family. This is the place that I call home. I believe I can offer a fresh and unique perspective for the community. 13 years ago, the trajectory of my life was changed with a spinal cord injury that I sustained into Lake Simcoe. For the past 13 years, I've been a vocal advocate for an accessibility for all style of community, and I currently sit on the York Region Accessibility Advisory Committee. My three main goals are simple: finding a new environmental and urban balance that will sustain the natural beauty and the financial security of our town, ensuring an end to urban sprawl, and that all future tax-paying investments are considered from an accessibility for all standpoint, and carving out dated mechanisms and policies hindering small business across Regina. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll begin the questions to the portions, and following in our alternating from the draw, the first question will be directed towards Andrew Edge. Andrew, Ward 3 is a diverse ward in terms of having both urban and rural areas. How do you meet the demands of this diversity and the residents living in this ward?
Thank you for the question. And I've been hearing that a lot on the doors as we knock around. Different areas of our ward have different concerns. And to meet those needs, we first need to start by listening to our residents, hearing what they have to say, communicating with our residents, and meeting with them, and then looking into how those concerns need to be addressed with them. And I think our key point there, meeting their needs, is by first listening to them and understanding what they have to offer, what their concerns are.
Thank you. Scott Wallen, how do you meet the diverse needs of residents in Ward 3?
Thank you. I agree with Andrew. I think we need to talk to the people they know best, and it is a big and diverse ward. The lake is much different than the farmland and the community that we have out there. I think I would be able to do that because this would be my full-time job or gig, and I would be able to dedicate my full time towards this. It wouldn't be a part-time endeavor, and yeah.
Thank you. And now, Dave Neeson, how do we meet the demands of diversity in the ward?
Well, it's a great question, Dave, and certainly Ward 3 is an extremely diverse ward, as you know. We've got sort of our historic lakeshore area as designated within our official plan, which is generally our lakeshore areas. And so I've been successful in that regard with keeping development low. I believe we have no more than roughly 24 developable lots left in the historic lakeshore zone, and so these are not areas whatsoever that are meant for growth, and nor would I ever support them being for growth. These are our natural heritage areas. We certainly have our rural and agricultural areas, and those require special protection as well, and certainly our attention and our respect given the agricultural sector here in Ward 3, which is extremely important. And now to the south end, which is new to the ward, we certainly have sort of the Church Street within the Keswick Secondary Plan, which is our urban development, which is new to Ward 3, formerly of Ward 2. And so with that, we need to ensure that we're developing in a way that's sustainable and financially sustainable and environmentally sustainable for the future here in the town, and also ensuring for good job growth for the community.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Scott Wallen to lead us off. What do you perceive to be the biggest threat to the health of Lake Simcoe, and what policies would you promote at the municipal level to address it?
The lake has changed a lot since I was a kid, and I believe the phosphorus, the phosphorus pollution that is being added to the lake it's still growing, even though we have agreed to reduce the levels, and I guess it's the phosphorus levels that I believe are the biggest pollution factor within Lake Simcoe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dave Neeson, the biggest threat to the health of Lake Simcoe and how to address it.
Certainly. So the science is clear in that regard. It's certainly phosphorus pollution, which leads to eutrophication and excess plant growth and robs the lake of its oxygen, which certainly affects the deep water fishery, notwithstanding the quality of our drinking water. And so that's why I'm so proud that I was able to co-lead a large and diverse group of members of council throughout the watershed, both mayors, members of council, federal and provincial politicians, and also working with local concerned citizens to bring forward, and I was successful with getting the capital funding through the federal and provincial governments to the tune of $40 million for Lake Simcoe's first phosphorus recycling plant. As called by the LSRCA, is an absolute game changer for the health of the lake, and this has never been undertaken. It's Lake Simcoe's largest project ever undertaken in this regard to be placed in the Holland Marsh. So I'm extremely proud of that, but the work needs to continue. We need to ensure that it's delivered, and more importantly, work with the province to ensure that there's a time-bound plan to continue to reduce phosphorus pollution in Lake Simcoe and the appropriate funds to do so, which I'm proud to have done as well.
Thank you. Andrew Edge, the health of Lake Simcoe.
I'm going to agree with both my three candidates here. Phosphorus are a major concern here, but I do want to correct Dave on one thing. Our Art Jan's pumping station has not been fully funded. It's put in pause because the York region pulled the pause when the Upper York region Simcoe sewage system was not done. So again, one of the things I'm going to promote is finishing the full funding of that, as well as reducing our urban sprawl that's removing our green spaces and our watersheds, while looking at, as we grow in our parks, to move and look at ways to mitigate phosphorus coming from our residents, as well as looking at environmental assessments like we have the Bradford bypass going through. It's an important artery that we need to use, but we need to make sure that we're putting in policies at the provincial level that mitigate that impact on our environment and protecting routes through there that minimizes that impact.
Okay, thank you. Dave Neeson has a request to comment. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I just think it requires clarification. So the Art Jan's pumping station is not the phosphorus recycling plant. That already exists and has existed for decades. And what the Art Jan's pumping station does in the Holland Marsh is actually drain the marsh, as the marsh is a wetland. And what that pumping station does is take out all of that water out of the wetlands to grow agriculture that we all appreciate, certainly the soup and salad bowl of Ontario. And so the phosphorus recycling plant is actually to capture all of the water that's pumped out and remove the phosphorus. And so Art Jantz is a good man, famous in the Bradford, West Gwillimbury, and the Marsh, and that plant already does exist. The phosphorus plant is something completely different.
Okay, thank you. And a rebuttal?
Yeah, no, and I think he's exactly right. The pumping station is part of the Art Jan system, and this phosphorus recycling plant has not been fully funded yet. And we need to make sure, as good stewards of our Lake Simcoe and of our community, that we fully fund this and pressure the governments in York Region to fully fund this and not dump raw sewage treated sewage, I should correct myself there, treated sewage into Lake Simcoe, protecting our watershed.
Great, thanks. Let's move on to the next question now. And Dave Neeson, you'll be the first to respond to this one. Ward 3 is home to two of the largest town parks. Currently, the town is in the process of undertaking an extensive waterfront master plan involving these parks. What parts of the findings so far do you support?
Well, so again, great question, Dave. Thank you. So this is something that goes all the way back to my first election in 2014 and hearing it at the doors that, and certainly it's obvious that Willow Beach requires some serious improvement. And so two things follow with that. I'm happy that we're undertaking the Waterfront Master Plan, because certainly, not making a plan is planning to fail. And so I'm happy we've been able to go and do large public consultations on the matter. It's interesting to hear that I'm still hearing this at the doors, especially with respect to Willow Park. And so we need to ensure that, the first thing is the town doesn't own the vast majority of Willow Beach. And so we're in the midst of undertaking that with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority so that the town can actually become the owner of Willow Beach Park. And we're certainly looking at expanded activities there in the park, expanding the beach area, redirecting the road potentially in consultation with the region. Most happily, I'm very proud to see that that was something that the residents, through the consultation, which was broad and well attended, that they supported. And so now we need to get to the phase where we can fund these things.
Thank you. Andrew Edge, what parts of the Waterfront Master Plan do you support?
Yeah, parts of the Waterfront Master Plan is a huge component of what we do in Ward 3. We have a massive shoreline, and our residents make use of these parks day in and day out. The first thing I saw in our plan was the realignment of Lake Drive, which is a huge important to increase the safety as our beachgoers access the beach and avoiding that traffic congestion, as we talked about, that multi-road user competing for that space, making it safe. The other piece I noticed, there's comments about bringing in food trucks, bringing in vendors into our parks to add increased opportunities for our residents to purchase food, as well as to drive a little bit of commercial with our parks. And then again, the other piece is resident parking in our parks and making sure that we're utilizing that space, but also protecting our environment and honoring those green spaces as we mitigate our impact on our lake. Thank you.
And Scott Wallen, the parts of the Waterfront Master Plan that you support.
What parts of it? To be honest, I think the Waterfront Master Plan it's a pretty good step forward with what has existed there. I mean, I've been going to those parks my whole life, and something drastic needs to be done, and I think that that plan is in place. I am a bit concerned for the road space between the parks that are getting developed. I don't know if enough is being done, because now that we expand the parks, we're now going to have more walkers and more pedestrians on Lake Drive traveling up and down the road. And I know right now it's a fight between space and safety, and I know that has to be balanced out. I like the idea of having the pop-up food trucks so that people don't need to leave the beach and go into town. Yeah, it's a good plan. I think it's a good step forward.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Andrew Edge. Increasingly, working families are unable to find an affordable place to rent or buy. The region is responsible for housing programs, but what are your plans to address housing affordability?
Yeah, great question. You know what? Going around to the door, speaking to some of our retirees, our young families, our renters, even into our aging population that's getting older, empty nesters, their biggest concern is they love Georgina. They want to stay here. And how can they now afford to move in or downsize or move in or upsize their home? So part of what I want to do is embed into our mini cultures that we develop in our development plans and subdivisions, multi-use areas. So we can embed smaller homes, we can involve multi-use complexes, apartment complexes, townhomes, as well as larger homes for a multitude of residents to go through and utilize, and working with the region to offer those systems within our community, so we don't create pockets, but we create a blend, a melding pot throughout our community.
Thank you. And Scott Wallen, affordable housing. What are your plans to address housing affordability?
Well, I mean, I'm 33 years old, and I've seen the last 5 years, I've seen house prices double and become pretty much unattainable to anyone my age that has grown up in the community. It's a major concern for parents because their kids can't stay where they grew up. They're forced to leave and go further north or further east. So I believe that we need to focus more on building up our downtown of Keswick or Sutton or Pefferlaw instead of the ever-expanding outward sprawl. I really don't think that we should lose any more farmland or forest to single-family home subdivisions that cost $1 million and is unattainable to the current population of mostly everybody who lives here anyway. So,
Thank you. Dave Neeson, what are your plans to address affordable housing?
Well, this is going to be tough to answer in a minute, Dave. It's a complicated subject, but I think most importantly is that as leaders, we have to continue to work with our stakeholders, specifically in this case, the provincial government, as the vast majority of planning policies are legislated by the provincial government. And so as a lower tier government, we have to comply. Now, having said that, we did receive notice from Minister Clark at the provincial government that they're undertaking a review of the Planning Act. And this has to be done very specifically in consultation with the local community and town council. And the reason for that, Dave, is that certainly the town doesn't have the ability to completely resolve the issue of affordable housing, but there are things in which that we can do right now within our power and or through legislative change to assist in that creation, and we need to be a partner. As an example, things that are desirous to the community, we need to look at things like development charge credits for affordable rental housing, as an example, for which we have a severe lack of here. There's many other things internally, looking at cutting red tape to speed up approval processes, but really this is a partnership issue, and those relationships are something that are important.
Thank you. Let's start this question with Scott. Describe an economic development strategy that you think meets the various needs of the municipality and its residents.
Describe an economic
Development strategy.
That's a tough question. I think that the urban sprawl outwards is extremely expensive. To get the town services and town water, plumbing, gas lines, electricity outwards and further expanding outwards, it costs a lot of money to keep all of those places running. And I think we need to diversify our downtowns and make them, higher density areas. Look at the zoning of certain areas to change into maybe different buildings that can, be a little bit taller, duplexes, triplexes, that kind of thing. I think that's what our town really needs.
Let's go to Dave Neeson, an economic development strategy.
Yeah, so thanks, Dave. This is something that I've been very proud to work on, and certainly being a leader within the responsible development of our commercial lands at Keswick Business Park. I'm very proud of that. But I think at the end of the day, COVID did something that was actually positive. There's not a whole lot positive related to COVID, but what is positive is it forced governments to look at change in a very quick manner. And what we've been able to find through the last couple of years is these things are actually common sense and do work, for which years ago everyone would say that they didn't, from a bureaucratic structure, and they actually do. And that's been demonstrated. And so what we need to continue to do is cut red tape, look at streamlining our licensing and permitting, look at economies of scale to bring those things all together, for which, as an example, the business class program we were able to create and bring the departments together for a one-stop shop. The business development, we need to continue there with, as we know, our small business create up to 70% of the job creation. And lastly, we need to look at our economic and business development policies and be able to, as opposed to be a land use planning authority, we need to get to yes and focus on that customer focus.
Okay. Andrew Edge, your business economic development strategy.
Great question, because you know what? In Georgina, we need to develop our industry and commercial spaces. So the first thing we've got to do, I've heard loud and clear from our business owners, the red tape and the redundancies in the building process and the application process needs to be eliminated. By creating a system where we communicate within our departments and talk through and work our business owners through the process, just like a concierge would do, is extremely important for them as they navigate our process, as well as when we bring new businesses into our area and bringing them in. And we also need to focus on embedding green infrastructure. Right? Things like green infrastructure into all our developments, creating a way and creating people to come into our community and say, hey, we're a green community. We're building these geothermals, green roofs, water recycling into our developments. And now we create a new industry within our town that's safe and protective of our lake.
Thank you. Now, we're really low on time. We only have time for a 20-second response to this question from everyone, starting with Dave Neeson. What, in your opinion, is the biggest issue facing Ward 3 residents, and how will you make it a priority for council?
Yes, that's a good question, Dave. So I guess at the end of the day, now we have to have the conversation about affordability and taxes and notwithstanding development. And so we sort of touched on those things. But listen, at the end of the day, we got to ensure that we're keeping our taxes low, but we're also developing in a way that we're modernizing Georgina, we're keeping it sustainable, and also respecting the environment, and most importantly, Lake Simcoe. Now,
thank you. 20 seconds to Andrew. The biggest issue.
Biggest issue for our residents is putting food on the table. Many of our residents are choosing between watering down their milk or paying for a loaf of bread. It's our job to look for efficiencies and hold the line on our taxes and our property tax. We have and increase the commercial presence in our area to diversify our property tax base. We need to hold the line on our taxes to help our residents.
Very much. Scott, 20 seconds on the biggest issue.
Again, I think it's affordability, and our taxes are, ever increasing. It doesn't seem like we ever have enough business infrastructure in town. I've heard my whole life. Thankfully we do have this business park that is being built right now. But affordability and taxes is, I think, a major.
Great, thank you. We're now going to move to the closing statements. You will each have 1 minute, and we'll do this in reverse order to the opening remarks. So we're starting with Scott Wolin.
Okay. First, I want to say thank you, Dave, and thank you, Rogers, for hosting this event. Andrew, thank you. Dave, it's been a great debate. I don't think we've been too mean to each other. And I want to thank the residents of Georgina for giving me your time and letting me talk your ear off when I knock on the doors. I hope that we can come to a mutual agreement and understanding. And I hope you pick me on October 24th.
Thank you. Andrew Edge, 1 minute closing statement.
I want to thank you, Dave. You did a great job, but I also want to thank Rogers Communication and the Georgina Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. But I really want to thank you, the voters, for taking the time to come out of your day, your busy day, and hear what I have to say. I feel it's my responsibility to give back to the community that's given me and my family so much. I've seen firsthand through my use of Lake Simcoe, through fishing, swimming, and walks, the impact our past practices have had. We know there's solutions to many of the problems, but we need to act now to implement them to save our lake today. I promise to challenge the status quo and look for opportunities to reduce the red tape and redundancies businesses encounter when they're trying to grow, increasing the good-paying jobs for our residents. I pledge to find the ways to hold the line on taxes, but also look for ways to generate revenue through thoughtful economic growth. Ward 3 deserves a councillor that is honest, transparent, and isn't afraid to speak up for them. It's time we give Georgina the edge.
Thank you. Dave Neeson, 1 minute closing statement.
Well, firstly, I'd like to thank the team here at Rogers TV Georgina, the Chamber of Commerce, and our moderator, Dave Selassie, for hosting today's event. I'm running for re-election this October so we can continue the amazing work that we have done together over the past 8 years. When you first granted me the honour of being your councillor back in 2014, I promised you that I would fight to save the North Columberry Forest, protect Lake Simcoe, and deliver smart growth through the responsible development of the Keswick Business Park. Together, we have done just that and so much more. To keep our town moving forward, we need a councillor who is a proven and trusted leader, both at our local council and across municipalities around Lake Simcoe as our town continues to grow and become an even bigger player here in York Region. In closing, I want to thank you for your years of trust, confidence, and support, and following your vote on October 24th, I'm eager to continue working with you, advocating for you, and continuing to move our incredible town forward together. Thank you, and thank you to my fellow candidates.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, candidates, for your participation. I just want to also put in a reminder that the fourth candidate, Danielle Cohen, was unable to join us. If people in the audience, viewers, are realizing she's not here. We hope that these debates will make you help you make an informed decision for Election Day. And Rogers TV will be repeating all the debates leading up to October 24th. Schedules are available on rogerstv.com. We also invite you to tune in live on election night for the local results. I also invite you to watch Politically Speaking this month, in which 3 former members of council discuss the issues in the election. I'll be hosting it. I'm Dave Selassie.